topic 8.1, basic procedure of problem solving. Yeah. So in the first topic of this semester, I would like to talk about the general procedure of problem solving. Yeah. Because for this class, our main goal, we want to solve real-world computing problems. So the problem solving related knowledge is very important. Yeah. All right, so let's look at our first question. Yeah. How many squares of different sizes can you find along the grid of a chessboard? So here you see a standard chessboard. Okay, yeah, A by A. Yeah, the squares, you can see white squares and the black squares. All right, so this question, we need to count the number of total squares of different sizes. Yeah. Here, when you try to get the squares, you may have different sizes. Yeah. The easiest size of square you can see, the unit square, right? The unit square. Okay, so this is a unit square. Okay, one by one, the size. Right? But you can also see squares of other sizes, right? So for example, here there is one 2 by 2. The size is different. Yeah. Each side, the length is 2 units. Okay, horizontally 2 units, vertically 2 units, and so on. Yeah. And in this question, you need to count all the possible squares formed by the grid lines, horizontal grid lines and vertical grid lines. Yeah. All right. The goal, we want to solve this computing problem. So here we treat this question as a computing problem. Okay? So we do computation. So what kind of computation? So here, let's understand the, basic steps. Understand the general process for this computing problem. Yeah. All right. So here, what we're doing here, basically, data processing work. So we do data processing. Yeah. So we are given certain data. So then we manipulate the given data and try to generate the result. Okay? So that's the data processing. Yeah. So what is the given data? In this question, the given data, all the squares you can discover in the standard chessboard, the given data, the grid structure, the squares formed by the grid structure. That's the given data. Okay? All right. Or we can say squares in all different sizes. We treat it as the given data. So now we need to manipulate. Now we have some freedom to manipulate the given data. So we call it data processing. Yeah. So we can apply various operations on the given data, and at the end, we want to generate the processing result. Yeah. All right. Next question, how to identify all the squares. So one thing you need to do, you need to identify all the possible squares. Yeah. All right. So here you can see, in order to identify one square in the standard chessboard, we know there are 4 sides in a square, right? Yeah. One square has 4 sides. Based on the orientation in the chessboard. 2 horizontal sides and 2 vertical sides. So how to form such a square? So first we need to have 2 horizontal lines, right? First we need to identify 2 horizontal lines. So one horizontal line here, another horizontal line here, for example. Then to get a square, we also need to have 2 vertical lines along the grid lines. Here, let's assume we consider, these lines. All right. So then, these 4 lines should satisfy another property. The gap, or the distance between 2 horizontal lines and the distance between 2 vertical lines must be the same to get a square. Otherwise, you get a rectangle, right? Otherwise, you get a rectangle. Okay? So the question is different. So you consider number of rectangles of different sizes, right? That's another question. All right, so here, based on the observation, we have this conclusion. Use 2 horizontal lines and 2 vertical lines with the same distance to form one particular square in the chessboard. All right, so what should we do next? So what we are doing so far, that's part of the understanding of the given question. So here you can see, for a typical computing problem, in order to solve it, we need to spend a lot of time to understand the question. Here, so far, we have done some good progress in understanding of this question. Next. All right, so here, the critical step in this problem, how to manipulate data efficiently. So now we want to manipulate data. Okay. So you have many different ways to manipulate the data, but we want to have some good way, efficient way to manipulate data. All right. So what do you mean efficient way to manipulate the data? So here, typically in our computing problem, solving problem, arrange the data in a well-organized way. So that's, typical work you need to do. Organize the given data. So here, at this point, the given data, all the possible squares you can find in the standard chessboard, they are distributed pretty much randomly, right? So here and there, distributed randomly. So that means not well organized. So if the data is distributed not in a well organized way, then it is hard to manipulate. It is hard to do the data processing on it. Okay? So one typical work we need to do, so let us organize our data based on some special properties, okay? To make it well organized first. Then it would be much easier for data processing. All right, so next, let's look at how to organize the data. All right. So another typical way to organize the data. So here, I want to show you another commonly used way to organize the data. So the way is characterize the data, or we do a special type of work we call the grouping the data grouping concept. Yeah. We make appropriate groups. Yeah. So we group the given data, or you can call it a characterization. Yeah. So we put them in different categories. Yeah. That kind of work. Yeah. Here we need to do that. Okay. All right. So we want to characterize the data in suitable categories. Now, before we do that, the data in all the categories, they're mixed in the same place. So mixed, not separated. Then it's hard to see the properties. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So that the data in the same category shares the same property. Yeah. Otherwise, if the data from different categories is mixed, then their properties also mixed, right? Yeah. So, very messy. It's hard to apply any property. Yeah. Right? So now we want to separate them. Now we want to use different categories to separate the given data. Then in each category, the data in each category should follow the same property. So then it's much easier to apply data processing operations on the given data. Okay, so that's the basic idea. Yeah. All right, so next, what are the categories? Okay, yeah, because here you see our target, our goal, we consider squares of different sizes. So let us use those sizes as the categories. Yeah. All right, sizes of squares from smallest 1 by 1, then larger sizes 2 by 2, 3 by 3, and so on. Then we reach the largest size 8 by 8. That's all the possible sizes of the squares. Yeah. Okay. So next step, we want to do the counting. Yeah. So our main work solving this problem, we need to do the counting work. Okay. All right. So here, let me list all the categories, all the possible sizes. Yeah. The first column, the size number. Yeah. So these 8 possible sizes. Yeah. First column. The second column, then the counting number, counting results for individual size, the number of squares for individual size of squares. All right, so 1 by 1, the number of squares, that's easy. Yeah. 64, yeah, some students said 64. Yeah, here I use this 8 by 8, 8 times 8 format. Okay, because how do we get that 64? Horizontally, there are 8 different unit squares, the sides of different unit squares, and vertically, there are 8 different sides of the unit squares. So that's the reason the result is 8 times 8. Yeah. All right. Then for the square size 2 by 2, how many such squares? Yeah. So let's do the counting also. The horizontal direction and the vertical direction. 2 dimensions. Yeah. All right. So horizontal. So let me, mark it on the chessboard. All right. So horizontal. Let's count one by one here. Yeah. The first length 2 side of such squares. This is the first one. Then the second one. This is another possible size 2 side that can be used in the squares. The third one, the fourth one, fifth, sixth, seventh, the last one. Similarly, for the vertical dimension, we have the same result. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? Yeah. So each dimension there are 7 cases. Yeah. So the counting number is 7, but 2 dimensions. So the result is 7 times 7, 49. Okay? All right. So similarly for 3 by 3, so you can use this similar counting method. You get 6 times 6, 5 times 5, and so on, all the way down to the last one, 1 times 1. Only one 8 by 8 square. Okay, all right. So that's the, progress, right? Yeah. So we get good progress so far. These 2 columns, the second column, the data we derived from the given data. Okay. All right. So before we do the next step, here I like to point out one important special concept. So that will be very useful in problem solving. Yeah. All right. So let's observe a rule here. Yeah. So if you look at the data in the first 2 columns, can you see some special rule? Some interesting special rule? Yeah. All right. So here, if we use the notations, to represent size number and the number of squares. So let's use 2 variables to represent these 2 numbers. Size, we use m by m. M, some positive integer, m by m. And number of squares, n by n. N times n, that number. Okay, yeah. Then we can see a simple rule from the first 2 columns of data. So that is m plus n equals 9. It is correct for all the rows. So look at all the rows. If you check all the rows, this rule is correct for all of them. Always the sum of these 2 numbers, m and n, always 9. It never changes. Okay? Yeah. When you change the rows, this number, this quantity, never changes. How about this property? Yeah. How nice it is. Okay? Yeah. So we give a name of this special quantity. We give a concept name for this quantity. Yeah. Because it's important, it's useful in problem solving, so we want to study and understand this concept here. Yeah. So this number does not depend on the sizes of the squares. Never changes when you change the sizes of the square. So we call it the concept invariance concept. So it is an invariance in this question. And later you will see this invariance concept very important, very useful in problem solving. Yeah. All right. Next. So let's understand the role of the invariance. Why it is so important? Its role. Yeah. All right. First, the invariance usually provides a critical property or insight of a problem. It is closely related to the critical property. Okay? So it may not be the same. So the invariance and the critical property are closely related. Yeah. It may not be the same. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So the insight. So we know solving any computing problem, the insight is very important. Yeah. So because you can find, if you find some critical property of the problem, then you can get an appropriate method to solve it. Yeah. All right. The invariance property can help us keep track of the data. So this is one of the commonly used ways for the invariance concept. Keep track of the data. Yeah. Although there are many other usages. Yeah. So here, because in this question, we may need to use invariance property to keep track of the data. Okay. Yeah, let me give you a simple example. All right. Consider a 100 by 100 chessboard. Yeah. Although our standard chessboard is 8 by 8, but we can generalize it to 100 by 100 chessboard. All right? Yeah, so it's no problem. Okay? Theoretically, we can do that kind of generalization, right? Yeah. Now, my question. How many squares are of the size 37 by 37? Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Look at that. Yeah. So the number much larger. Yeah. So it's hard to do the, specific counting, right? So if you want to do the, counting work, it's not easy. But yeah, some students can see we can use the invariance concept to keep track of the data. So here the answer is 64 by 64. Yeah. How to get that? Because using the property we observed in the previous slide. Okay? Yeah. Little m plus little n equals 9, right? Then 9 is 8 plus 1. Here, because it's 100 by 100, so little m, if we, using the same kind of equality from the previous slide, it should be little m plus little n equals size number plus 1. 100 plus 1. Yeah. 37 plus some n number equals 101, so that little n equals 64. Okay. That's the way, here you can see we use the invariance concept to help us keep track of the data. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. So if I ask you another similar question with n given in a different number, let's say 43. Then you can find the corresponding n easily, right? With this equality. You can find that easily. Yeah. All right. Next. Yeah, so in a general problem solving, usually it is not easy to find the invariance of a problem. Actually, it's very hard. Yeah. So you need to have really good understanding of the given computing problem before you can discover some invariance property. Yeah. Our next example, 8.2, I will give you a very interesting, also very challenging puzzle problem. Yeah. In that example, you will see it's very hard to discover the invariance quantity. Yeah. All right. Now, let's complete the computation work. Yeah. Now we are ready to do the last step, computation result. Expression for the number of squares, adding the subtotals for 8 different sizes. Each one we have a subtotal. Now we add up all these 8 numbers, 8 consecutive square numbers, 1 square plus 2 square, and so on, until 8 squared. So the answer is 204. Okay, yeah. All right. Next, let's do the further thinking. Can we consider a more general question, similar type? Yeah. How about an n by n chessboard? Yeah. The size of the chessboard, each side, n units. So n by n chessboard. And we want to count the total number of squares of all possible sizes. Based on our similar analysis above. So the summation should be 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus n squared. Yeah. So this summation, so there is a formula for it. Yeah. So this one, there is a famous formula for it. So that is 1/6 times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1. Yeah. So this formula, you can find it in the textbook of the discrete math. Yeah. So discrete math, so there is a chapter showing you how to find the summation. Yeah. Yeah. For the consecutive squares of the integers. All right? Yeah. So here I just give you the formula. So I do not show you how to get it. Okay. Yeah, it's not that easy, but it can be found in using some special technique. Yeah. All right. So next, the summary. After we finish solving this problem, let's look at what we can learn from this question. Yeah. Summary point 1. Yeah. Here I give you the result in this flashcard format. Okay. The number of squares in a chessboard. Yeah. So if the chessboard, the size capital N by N, and we assume there are little n by n squares of size little m by n. Yeah. Then we have the following nice equality little m plus little n equals capital N plus 1. Yeah. All right. And I also give you the reference here, yeah, where to find the knowledge point of this flashcard in Module 1, Part A, and page 6. Yeah. That's the first knowledge point we can learn from our first example. Then the second knowledge point, sum of consecutive squares. Yeah. Here the formula, yeah, I just used in the previous slide. Yeah, formula. Yeah, 1 square plus 2 square plus 3 square plus plus n square equals 1/6 times n plus 1 times 2n plus 1. Yeah. 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 After we have this formula, now later I may give you several exercise questions to practice using this formula. Okay? Yeah. Here I like to give you a simple example. Yeah. To use this formula. Yeah. All right. So let me write the question here. Yeah. All right. Here we want to calculate the first n consecutive squares of even integers. So that is 2 square plus 4 square plus 6 square plus plus 2n square. How to find the result of the summation of these n square of consecutive even numbers. Yeah. You can apply the given formula. Yeah. The question is how to connect the even version consecutive square numbers to the given formula, right? So that connection, you need to see it. Okay, yeah. So here, common factor. So here we have n terms. The term 1, term 2, term 3, the last term. Can you see a common factor number among all these terms? It's 4. It's 4. So we can factor out the common factor first. So after we factor out the common factor 4, let's take 4 out. Then inside the parentheses, the first term, 2 square, after we factor out 4, only 1 square left. The second term, 4 square, after we factor out common factor 4, 2 square, only 2 square left. The third term, 6 square, after we factor out the common factor 2 square, 4 out, only 3 square left, and so on. The last term, 2n parenthesis square, after we factor out the common factor 2 square, yeah, out, yeah, because this 2n square equals 2 square times n square, right? But we want to factor out that 2 square, 4 out. So only n square left. Okay, all right. So now after that, then inside the parentheses, the same as the form of the given n consecutive square of integers, right? Yeah. So now we can apply the formula directly. Yeah. So equals 4 times 1/6 times n times m plus 1 times 2m plus 1. Okay? So you can do simplification. Yeah. Yeah. So here I show you a simple example to, calculate some special form of summations. Yeah. Using this standard formula, the flashcard number 2 standard formula. Okay. All right. So then later, probably in this weekend, I will post a set of exercise questions. The exercise questions. Yeah. So that's not homework assignment. Okay. Exercise question. That's for self-study. Yeah. And I will post answers later for your self-study. Okay? Yeah. All right. Some of the questions for your self-study, I will put them in the homework assignment. I will mark them out. Okay? Yeah. So then, I may give you the question like, so similar to what we just did. Like this time, I ask you to find 1 square plus 3 square plus 5 square. This time for odd integers, square of consecutive odd integers, entail 2n minus 1 squares. Can you apply the given formula in this flashcard to calculate this, the summation of first and consecutive positive integers, square of them? Okay? Yeah. So you need to do some appropriate manipulation, data manipulation. In order to apply the given formula, you need to discover, you need to find the, appropriate form to arrange the given data. Okay? Yeah. So think about it. Yeah. All right. So that's the flashcard number 2. Flashcard number 3, that invariance property. Okay. Yeah. So this time, we know it's very important. Yeah. Here I put in our flashcard number 3. Yeah. In a problem containing the data that is not organized well, we can discover certain invariance property to help keep track of the data or find other useful properties. Now, so in the next topic, 8.2, I will show you an interesting puzzle problem in which we need to discover the invariance quantity. Yeah. All right, so let me finish the topic 8.1 right here.